All right, Nuggets fans, welcome in to Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at BETONLINE and number 38. I am your host, Ryan Blackburn at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I am here. I am ready to discuss the Denver Nuggets, who they won last night. It was a hard-fought win, and probably should have been a little bit easier for them, but we'll talk about it. 132 to 129 in overtime. The Nuggets get it done. Nikola Jokic goes from very passive play to helping the team win the game in the fourth quarter in overtime. Jamal Murray turns it around and then looks pretty good, and I think has looked pretty good over the course of the last week and a half or so. That's a good sign. And there's a lot to like. There's a lot to like about where the Denver Nuggets are at, except there's not. And then there's just a feeling, and there's just a lot of stuff that they are having to deal with, and I think trying to navigate right now that I think is putting a damper on the mood in the room, including the trade rumors. And we'll talk about all of that. We'll talk about a variety of things. Give me your thoughts in the comments for sure. Would love to be able to hear from you, the fans, on, hey, why don't the Nuggets look like the Nuggets right now? What's the difference? Or do they look like the Nuggets right now and I'm just waffling? Like, let me just let me know what you think, and we can talk about it. On this episode, this podcast is brought to you by BetOnline, the number one source for everything football. And number one source for everything online betting, from the earliest odds to in-game live betting. BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen, with the largest selection of odds and props on everything from football to NBA to college basketball and more. Head on over to BetOnline today, and don't forget to use your promo code BELIEVE on your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this for sure. And we got a super chat from Cedric. Super chat. Thank you so much, Cedric. Merry Xmas. Merry Christmas. We need a trade as gifts, Ryan. Aloha. Aloha to you, Cedric. I saw the video that you posted. It is very funny on the DNVR side of things, but obviously really appreciate all of you for hopping in today. And just the amount of growth that I have had both on this platform, on Locked On Nuggets, on a variety of things, it is not something that is lost on me. So again, really appreciate it. And for any of you that decide to spend your Monday morning on December 23rd with me, really appreciate that. I try not to lose sight of that. I mean, this is a tough business, and you always have to be cranking out content for sure. But I want to make sure that everybody knows that I do appreciate you on this holiday season, and you are all appreciated on the holiday season as well. Okay, 132 to 129. The Nuggets game of all Nuggets games, as Michael Malone didn't say that exactly, but he shared the same sentiment on his post game. Says we've basically played this game a whole bunch of times over the course of the last few weeks and really the first couple months of the NBA season. Denver effectively, is my camera off? Oh, the Lord. That looks better. So Denver effectively played the same game that they've played a lot, where they get down, they lose the first and even really the second quarter. I don't know if they actually lost both, but it certainly felt like they lost. Yeah, they lost. They lost both. And Denver's net ratings in the first and second quarter are below average. Like you would expect them to lose, because that's what they've done. That's what they've done over the course of this past couple months. They didn't ultimately bounce back in the third quarter either. I thought that would be the time where they would really round back into form. I thought they closed the first half pretty well, and Jamal Murray showed some stuff. And I think Aaron Gordon also made some plays at the end of the first half. But third quarter, they were just apathetic. There was a lot of plays, really trying to set up some 3-point shots, and team just did not respond well to that. I'm not sure what it is. There should have been some like shots that were made during that stretch, but the Nuggets just did not look like themselves. And it just seems to me like, I mean, the Nuggets are going through it, not just from a game standpoint and trying to navigate the season, but we've heard the trade rumors as well. And there's a lot of things that they have to navigate themselves. Um, but ultimately, you look at a game like this against the 5 and now 25 New Orleans Pelicans and think, yeah, why are you getting down 17 points in a matchup like this against such a bad team? And I got to be honest, like the Pelicans are still a talented team. When they have all of these guys playing, DeJounte Murray, CJ McCollum, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, Yves Missi is a rookie, but he's pretty talented. And Jordan Hawkins, who's a second-year player, he had 25 points and like shot 9 of 18 from the field. Looked pretty good. But there's just a disconnect. There's like the Pelicans find ways to lose, and the Nuggets, fortunately for them and fortunately for the standings at the end of the day, have found ways to win. They found ways to bounce back. It took Nikola Jokic about 2.5 quarters, 3 quarters to really start locking in and really putting some pressure on the opposing team. And he finally really started to attack Yves Missi, really started to attack on the switches that he got. And that, I think, changed the tide. He's one of those guys that absolutely changes the temperature in the room for his teammates, because you know it when you see it with Jokic. When he is trying, when he is locked in on both ends of the floor, it gives the team more confidence. And he just wasn't really locked in for much of this game. Fortunately, throughout it, I thought that Murray played pretty well. And like there were some weaknesses at various points, but you just look at the final line, 27 points for Jamal, 4 assists, did have 6 turnovers. Some of the turnovers were pretty bad as well. But they weren't for lack of like effort turnovers. They were, hey, I was going too hard and just made a bad play kind of turnovers. 9 of 19 from the field, 2 of 9 from 3 isn't good, but he did shoot 7 of 10 from 2. And that to me is another indicator that he's on his way back. Even more so than the 3-point shooting, because the threes, like you can get to your 3 and you can make shots, but can you finish around the rim? Can you create space in the mid-range? Can you do the things around the basket? And Jamal has done that. Jamal definitely did that in this game last night. And so he helped get Denver through it, but Denver was still struggling and they still got down. And heading into the fourth quarter, I don't know what the ultimate deficit was at the end of the third quarter. Was it? Looks like, okay, they're down about 12. They're down about 12 at the beginning of the fourth, and Denver comes back once again with the lineup that features Russell Westbrook, Jamal Murray, Peyton Watson, Julian Strawther, and DeAndre Jordan. And that lineup was good. That lineup was straight up good. It did help that they got a 6-point play out of it, but it was pretty impressive to see that group specifically show up and give the starters a breath of fresh air, because they hadn't really breathed for a while. And whether it's just some weird jumpers or turnovers or not getting back in transition defense or anything else, like the starters just did not really justify their play. But the bench picked them up. And that's what the bench is supposed to do. It's not always going to be like that. And frankly, it's rarely ever going to be like that. But you look at the plus minuses across the board there. Yes, DeAndre Jordan was a -3 in his minutes, but Peyton Watson was a +5. Russell Westbrook was a +6. And Julian Strawther was a +20. Look at that, man. Look at Julian Strawther go. That was like, you guys saw the chart that I put out there about with the 2-man net ratings for every player, for every Nuggets player. That is going to go up for Julian Strawther, who had the red cross of death for his numbers. And he looked good. He looked good. It wasn't perfect, and he still has some holes in his game. He's still a guy who's going to get attacked on the defensive end, but 4 of 8 from the field, 1 of 5 from 3, 4 of 4 from the line, 13 points. He was attacking and had some success against the Pelicans yesterday. But Russell Westbrook is the guy that I think needs to be shouted out. On top of the 6-point play that Denver had, Jamal Murray hits a 3. Julian Strawther gets fouled, turns out to be flagrant, makes a free throw. Denver gets the ball back, and then Russell Westbrook throws a lob to DeAndre Jordan. Great stuff for Denver, and that really made it so that they could come back in this game, that they could find their way back into the game. And from then on, Russell Westbrook closed. He closed over Michael Porter. We'll talk about that in the second segment. But he closed and really earned that and played really well overall. Julian Strawther, Peyton Watson played deeper into the fourth quarter than they usually do because they earned that right. But then when Jokic and Aaron Gordon came back in, they were straight. They were doing a good job. Christian Brown, his effort did not waver in this one, although his execution did at times. And then Murray and Jokic, they really, I think they scored the final, they scored all 13 points in the overtime period and just looked a lot better. Looked like the team that they needed to look like the duo that they needed to look like for Denver to get the job done. So Denver ultimately gets the win and should feel good about it. You should feel like you can take a sigh of relief a little bit. And yet something, of course, still feels off. I titled this video, this podcast, "The Denver Nuggets Don't Look Like the Denver Nuggets Right Now." And I don't know if you all sympathize with that. I don't think that they look like the team that won the championship, certainly. Just from a mentality standpoint, but also from an effort standpoint. And then from an execution standpoint, it's just night and day. And yet, there's still time. There's still time to figure it out. And there's still, I think, some elements that the Nuggets have to replace, that they have to figure out. So we will see whether they can do it. When we come back, I want to talk about Michael Porter, how he got benched, what the answer is, and what to ultimately discuss and to take away from this particular game with regard to him. We will be right back here on Pickaxe and Roll. All right, we are back. Pickaxe and Roll. Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. Let's talk about Mike. Let's talk about Michael Porter, who I think is one of those guys that so many people have penciled him into the closing lineup, into Denver's both starting lineup and closing lineup forever and ever and ever, that when he got benched after not playing well, the team, or certainly the fan base, didn't respond well. I had a lot of folks that were responding to me, that were responding to Swipa, that were responding to Matt, say that they thought that Malone was making a big mistake, that he should have closed with Michael Porter, like he's just a guy that you close with. And I don't agree. After thinking about it for a while, it was not just about Mike not playing well last night. Trey Murphy, who would have been his primary matchup, was not in the game. They were playing 3 guards, the Pelicans were, and those 3 guards were all playing reasonably well. DeJounte Murray did not shoot the ball well last night, but he had 15 assists and 6 steals. CJ McCollum, 24 points, 9 assists. Jordan Hawkins off the bench, 25 points, 9 of 18 from the field, 5 of 13 from 3. He was excellent in this game. Also had 3 blocks, including stopping a fast break by himself, which was a very impressive play. And I look at the way that ended up, and Aaron Gordon earned the close last night. He was good. He was fine, or at least solid enough. And then turns out that was a very important thing for him to be a part of. He finished multiple plays around the rim last night, and then also got some rebounds, got some clutch offensive rebounds as well. And so he can do that. What Michael Porter would often have done, what he would have done in this clutch matchup for Denver is probably not enough for what they needed. Denver was going to go to the two-man game, and they were going to go to Murray. They're going to go to Jokic. They might get Aaron Gordon involved on occasion. If somebody's running, they might get Russell Westbrook as a facilitator or somebody who goes down the lane. They didn't need more offense in this game. They gave up 129 in overtime. They needed defense. They needed somebody who could really change the tide on the defensive end. They had Christian Brown already out there to defend one of the guards. They needed somebody who could defend another. And Russell Westbrook, I thought, earned the close. I thought he earned the opportunity. Now, if people say that they thought that Mike should have closed over Christian Brown, okay, maybe that's true. Maybe that's fine. But I also get why Michael Malone did what he did, and I don't have a single problem with it. Michael Porter, he hadn't played well. He had the lowest plus minus on the team. He, in the third quarter especially, was just kind of jacking up threes. He did not get to the rim at all. And when you are in such a place where that's all you're really doing, and didn't really grab a lot of rebounds, he did have a couple of blocks, but I don't remember them. Like, I don't remember how serious they were. He did have a couple of defensive possessions in the third quarter, I will say, that I noted. I was like, okay, this is interesting. This is something that he can do. Or at least he's trying in the midst of a whole bunch of guys not trying in that third quarter. And then he passed open the wide open three that Jokic kicked out to him and drove into the teeth of the defense and committed a charge. And to me, that was the straw, because you need Michael Porter to be aggressive. You need him to be shooting. And that was the, I think, first real moment of the, not first real moment, but like one of the real moments of the season where you saw him give up on the wide open three despite nobody being around him, and then drive into the teeth of the defense and not really have a plan and commit an offensive foul. And so I don't have a problem with him being benched. I don't think it was like this massive thing that Malone should have taken some grief over. This was perfectly reasonable. This is what you're supposed to do during a regular season. You're not supposed to play your starters in every closing situation. I know that Porter, he has closed in almost every situation that the Nuggets have been out there. I don't remember a single other time this year where he hasn't closed. So I'm not going to sit here and say that he needed to be out there, because he didn't. This was the 5-25 New Orleans Pelicans. Find a way to win. It doesn't have to include him. It'll include him when it's somebody else. But of course, it's the trade rumors. It's the entire dynamic around Michael Porter that I think is getting a lot of people frustrated, is getting a lot of people confused. And I'm curious as to what other Nuggets fans think. Like, what is the solution? Do you try to loop Michael Porter back into it? Do you try to get him back onto the same page mentally with the team? Or do you try to make one of these trades that are rumored right now? I think that one of the fears of releasing trade rumors like this is that they're 2 months before the trade deadline, so there's plenty of time in between now and then. And most trades don't happen until the trade deadline. So this is a lot to sort of navigate. Boyan with the super chat, big super chat from Boyan. Thank you so much. He says, Ryan, thank you for the great show. The team goes as Jokic defense and jumper from 3-point. If we had the jumper last year, we get the title in gold. Also, I wish Malone would take some notes on Nikola's usage from Pesic. I'm curious, like what usage are you talking about here with him? Is it lowering the usage with him? Is it more of a, like, he's relying on him too much? Because I think the Nuggets at this point, they kind of need to rely on him. The team is very much they are still trying to figure out how to navigate it. But again, thank you, Boyan, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. And I do agree that if they had Jokic's jumper from last year, then they probably win. I mean, think of Game 7 in the Western Conference semifinals. That would have been massive. That would have been a huge thing. So thank you for the super chat, Boyan. Really appreciate it. I'm seeing a lot of keep MPJ. I'm seeing a lot of don't trade Zach LaVine in the comments. And I understand that sentiment. Just kind of thinking about it, I do. So, me personally, I do think that Zach LaVine would help. I think that having another player like a LaVine or somebody of that ilk to take on some offensive responsibility with the team would absolutely help Jokic. It would help Murray. It would help everybody else be able to commit to the defensive end a little bit more. No, Zach LaVine is not a great defensive player, but he doesn't necessarily have to be for the entire team to start playing better defensively when they aren't like when they believe what they're doing on the offensive end. But I also think that if Denver needs more from their rotation, then maybe trading one player for another player isn't the best idea in the world. I think there's a lot of different ways that they could go. I think there's a bunch of the rumored moves I think would be good. The more I think about it, the more I think that Denver's probably not going to be able to get the trades that a lot of people think. Can I even read the super chat? Am I even allowed? Okay? I think I have to read it, like contractually actually, well, I don't have to, but I will. DJT's Nuggets next 4 years with the super chat. Just sell team to me. Don't listen to Swipa. And then that political word at the end. Thank you for the super chat. That is about that is about all I'm gonna say about that. God. Look, I think if you're the Nuggets, I think that this was always going to be an easier stretch for you from a competition standpoint. But now you're getting a lot of games in a lot of days. And I think there's going to be a lot of navigation over the course of these next 2 to 3 weeks. Will Jokic step up to the track defensively? Murray looks like he's at least back to his regular self, where the beginning of the season he was not even close to that. Aaron Gordon is somebody who is still up and down. I'm still trying to figure out what to make of that overall. Christian Braun is like he's got to be better on the defensive end, in my opinion. I don't think that he has been a guy that Denver can go to consistently on the defensive end and say, hey, we need you to shut down that guy. Christian is somebody I'm looking to step up. Like the offense, especially early, was really good, and it helped save Denver a little bit during a stretch where Murray was not playing well. But now that Murray's playing well, they need Christian to really lock in as a 3-and-D weapon. I don't know if he can do that. We'll see. Peyton Watson's played pretty well. Russell Westbrook's played pretty well. Julian Strawther, we'll see if he can continue this turnaround. That would be great. And then DeAndre Jordan, honestly, like he's been pretty solid for Denver over the course of this last week to 2 weeks. So Dario Saric came back and he was available last night for the Nuggets. He did not play, and I don't expect him to play going forward. I'm looking forward to seeing what Malone does with the bench rotation. There will be times where DJ probably cannot or should not play, and he's just going to need a break at some point. So hopefully Denver has a solution for that. Maybe they could break glass in case of emergency on Zeke Naji and see what he's got. But I honestly, I would rather not. So we'll see what they can do. We'll see what they can navigate. But I hope that Michael Porter can continue to find his place. This is a strong situation that the Nuggets find themselves in. Navigating this and getting out of it on the other side will make them a better team if they can stay together. If they allow this to fracture their group and not bring them closer together, then it was not meant to be. Then this season was not meant to be. Trade rumors were always going to be a possibility unless the team came out and they really showed, hey, we are great, we are good. But there is something wrong. There is something that they have to figure out. There is a dynamic that they are trying to navigate. I'm curious to see how they handle it as a team, because you look to your leaders in that situation. How does Jokic handle himself? How does Murray handle himself? How does Michael Malone handle himself? Can he keep Michael Porter engaged in this mess within the organization? Because it is a mess. It is a mess right now. I'm very curious to see what they do. All right. Jay Pirate with the super chat. He says, any trade of MPJ must include Najee and or Saric. That would be great. It would be very difficult for them to do it unless it was for Levine. Maybe there is a way that they could do it in some of these other moves. I think that Nuggets fans, of course, value Michael Porter's deal and his ability to play a little bit more than some other teams do. So we've heard some recent rumors on, wow, Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith. Wouldn't that be great? I don't know if the Nets want that, especially not with MPJ and Zeke Naji or MPJ and Dario Saric. Oh, yeah. What about Bogdan Bogdanovic, DeAndre Hunter, and Larry Nance? Those are three playable guys that Denver would be trading for one. If they were able to do that, then that would be awesome. I think that that is, I don't know if they're able to do that. I don't know if that's a possibility for them. So Nuggets fans may have to temper the expectations a little bit, but I do understand the sentiment. Like when you have Dario and you have Zeke and they're not helping you out, you want to move them for guys that could possibly help you out. I understand that. All right, let's take another break. When we come back, we're going to preview Nuggets Suns tonight. Gosh, what time is the game tonight? Is it one of the? Oh, it's an 8:00 game. Actually, I kind of like that. I needed a little bit more time, so good for Denver that they get a little bit of time too. But first, I want to tell everybody about Number 38, which is a bar in the Rhino area that does a great job of catering to a variety of people. Whether you're there for a game, whether you're there with friends, whether you're just wanting to get a drink, or if you want some brunch food, like Number 38 has a lot of great options. They've got a lot of great seating, both inside and outside. Got this big, massive 200-inch screen outside on the lawn area that they have. And we've got some fun things brewing. I can't say what exactly they are, but they will involve me. We've got some fun things brewing between Mile High Sports and Number 38. A fun little partnership that I think is going to get people pretty interested, pretty excited. Make sure to go check it out. Number 38 in Rhino. Let them know that you came from Mile High Sports. We'll be right back here on Pickaxe and Roll. All right, final segment, Pickaxe and Roll. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let's wrap this bad boy up by discussing Nuggets versus Suns. Suns are not as good of a team as I thought that they would be. Matt Moore, my co-host at Locked On, and I have definitely battled over the course of these last couple months on how good the Suns actually are. Denver's 15-11. The Suns are 14-13. They are tied for 10th in the Western Conference right now. They're 4-6 in their last 10 games. As bad as it has felt like the Nuggets have played, which has included the Washington loss among their last 10, they're still 6-4, and the Suns are even worse than that. They got Kevin Durant back recently from another injury, and they're still finding ways to lose, despite the fact that they should have a more talented team than a lot of these teams. Devin Booker's not going to play. He is out. I believe that Grayson Allen is also out. Both of those guys are Nuggets killer. Not necessarily Booker, but certainly Grayson Allen is a Nuggets killer. He has been great against the Nuggets in his last couple of years. And ultimately, like, the Nuggets have an opportunity on the second night of a back-to-back to face a team that is also kind of hurt. also kind of injured, and hopefully come out of it on the other side. Denver's 4-0 in their last 4 second nights of back-to-backs. Pretty impressive, honestly. Like, depending on, they haven't played the toughest competition, of course, in those games, but it has still been pretty impressive the way that they have showed up in those moments. So I'm looking forward to seeing whether they can do that. Jokic and Nurkic obviously have great battles every single time. They generally do a pretty good job against each other. Nurkic especially, he has found ways to be impactful against Jokic, but Jokic has found ways to get Nurkic into foul trouble in the process, and that has helped Denver. In the half, actually, let's not do that. Where do the Suns give up most of their shots? They protect the rim pretty well. They give up the 5th fewest shots around the rim, according to Cleaning the Glass. They give up a bunch of shots in the mid-range, and they do a pretty decent job of limiting threes. They give up above the break threes. They do not give up a bunch of corner threes. That is interesting. Kevin Durant, I think, can be seen as a big part of that. Royce O'Neal is a very smart defender as well. They have some good defenders. They have some players that can really help. Ultimately, though, they're going to play pretty small around Durant and Nurkic, although those two are huge in of themselves. So I'm looking at Porter. I'm looking at Porter in this one, and I'm looking at Murray. Denver is going to have a couple of matchups here. I assume that Bradley Beal will start, Kevin Durant will start, Yusuf Nurkic will start, and I believe Tyus Jones will start, and I believe Royce O'Neal will start for the Suns. So Tyus Jones or Bradley Beal, one of those two is probably going to guard Murray, and Royce O'Neal then probably is guarding Porter, I would guess. Maybe they slide Beal onto Porter, and they have Royce O'Neal guard Murray or something like that. Those are matchups that Denver can exploit, especially when you get into the pick and roll. You keep Durant kind of away from them and help side protection, and you find ways to attack. I could see Michael Porter having a big game. I actually wrote about this for Mile High Sports this morning. I could absolutely see that happening, and it would be a great story. It would be a great bounce back, second night of back-to-back. One thing I have noticed in Porter's history is that on each of those second nights of back-to-backs, he has scored at least 15 points, and he has shot at least 50% from the field. So, whether it's three-point shooting or defense or anything else beyond that, doesn't necessarily matter. I think that Porter's still got a lot to bring to this particular matchup. So hopefully that happens. Hopefully Denver can find a way. Hopefully Jokic can get Yusuf Nurkic into foul trouble once again. That, I think, would be a big deal for this team. And this is obviously a unique matchup because these teams play twice in 3 days. They play tonight, and then they play again on Christmas on Wednesday night. Both of those matchups are going to be contested, and usually in these situations, teams split matchups. They don't necessarily find ways to separate too much from each other, or if one team gets the better of the other in one matchup, the other team finds a way to adjust and respond in the next one. And these teams have obviously played a playoff series before. They have had battles before. They've had games where they've played each other in back-to-back nights multiple times before. So this is one where, with Devin Booker out, with Denver kind of looking shaky, I'm not really sure what to expect. I think Jokic will play pretty well. I think he's going to shoot a bunch of threes. Denver, though, coming back to altitude for the first time in a week. They've probably been fully adjusted away from altitude. And now they're coming back and they're playing the second night of a back-to-back at altitude. It wouldn't surprise me if they were the team that got tired, especially coming off of an overtime win in this last night. So keep that in mind. Keep all those things in mind when you're thinking about this game. It wouldn't surprise me if Denver shots are a little short, if the energy just wasn't there as much. But I do think that Michael Porter can be one of those guys. He only played 23 minutes last night. He has a lot of things to think about to prove. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a really big game. So that would be pretty cool for the team. I do still want to see Jamal Murray show up in a back-to-back, by the way. I haven't pulled the numbers for him or anything like that, but one of the things, I got a note from somebody on social where they were like, hey, one of the reasons why Murray has been so good is because we've had so much time between games. Like 2 days, 3 days. That's not a surprise, actually. And honestly, it makes a lot of sense for a guy like Murray who gets a little bit worn down, gets a little bit disadvantaged physically. Like having plenty of time in between games to really to really step back and take your preparation seriously and get your body right. That's not a surprise. So glad that he's fine. Like he's showing up on those particular days. That is a big one. Man, comments are going crazy. There's a lot of people that are like, do not trade Mike. And there's a lot of people that are like, trade Mike. This is a very polarizing topic for everybody. Also, Michael Malone is of course in the crossfire for the team. How about Michael Malone using all the timeouts with 11 minutes to go in the fourth quarter? He did not have a single timeout at that point. It was that was pretty funny. He definitely needed to. He definitely needed to take them in order to get the team back on track. Todd Houston asks, do we have a 5.2 million TPE from the Reggie Jackson trade? I believe that they do, Todd. I think that they do. But the problem that you run into with something like that is that they don't have enough space underneath the first apron or underneath the second apron in order to actually take on that money. Also, I think that because they're in the first apron, they don't have the flexibility to do that. They actually have to take back or send out more money than they receive. That's one of the stipulations of the new CBA. It's not like the last CBA where you could take it back as much as you want up until you were hard capped. This is unfortunate. Whew. Okay, there's a lot of Calvin Booth stuff. So look, the comments are going wild as comment sections are supposed to. I know that Nuggets fans are not entirely like they're. I don't know if anybody knows what the problem is. That's the thing that I keep coming back to. I wish I could sit here as like an analyst, as somebody who has done this reasonably professionally for a long time. I wish I could tell you exactly what the problem is for Denver, but there's just a lot of different elements that, like, if you remove and replace one of them, just one thing, it's not automatically going to get better. Or at least that's my impression. Like, I can't sit here and say, oh, Michael Porter's the problem, or Calvin Booth is the problem, or Michael Malone is the problem, or even Jamal Murray is the problem, because now Jamal Murray is back to playing reasonably well and the team is still struggling. So I don't know what the issue is. I don't know what it is. Still a lot of things to figure out. Todd Houston asks, any word on the trade availability of Kevin Love and Andre Drummond? Zero on Kevin Love. I don't know if he's available for trade. I don't know if he even wants to be moved away from Miami. He's a guy who, again, plays a very small role. Maybe he would help. Like, there's part of me that thinks he would help, but he certainly wouldn't help on the defensive end. Andre Drummond would help on the rebounding, but honestly, man, like, how different are Andre Drummond and DeAndre Jordan right now? Like, if we're being honest, for what they would be asked to do, how different are they actually? Andre Drummond is a little bit more mobile, maybe is slightly better defensively. Maybe he gets his hands on a couple of extra balls throughout a season and getting some steals. But he and DeAndre Jordan have basically the same player profile, and then you'd have to figure out what to do with Andre Drummond. So I'm not sure if I would make a deal for Drummond. Kevin Love, I could see, just to give yourself a little bit more spacing, a little bit more kind of playmaking in the front court, but who knows? All right. I think that's going to do it. I think my prediction is that the Nuggets win tonight. Keeping with the tradition, even though that they are going to. Oh well, Cedric asks, what's the word also on getting Bruce Brown possibly back, Ryan? They cannot get him back under the current salary unless they trade Michael Porter. If Bruce Brown gets bought out, or if he wants to come in free agency, Maybe Denver could get him for a similar deal that they had prior to, but I don't think that they could get him. I do not think that they could get him during this year unless they traded Michael Porter. And then that's kind of like defeating the purpose. You would want to add those guys together so you could figure it out. I think that Bruce Brown is probably not going to happen just based off of honestly, Russell Westbrook is kind of establishing himself and finding a home here. So who knows? Maybe Russell Westbrook is just the guy that Denver needs in that actual position. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, but Bruce hasn't played in a while. I don't know what he looks like. Ultimately, we'll have to see what happens. That is going to do it now for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at BetOnline and number 38. Thank you so much for tuning into the show, folks. Really appreciate the love and support on the podcast. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. I should be back tomorrow morning. It is Christmas Eve tomorrow morning. I should be back, though. I'm going to try to do a podcast on, did one today. I should do one on Tuesday. I'm going to try to do one on Thursday after Christmas. And then we'll see about Friday or Saturday. We'll see about one of those two. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. I will talk to you guys very soon.